Hi guys, it's spooky season and I want to make an outfit. I've always loved Sailor Moon. I dressed up as Sailor Moon as a little kid. I have a picture here. Like I was obsessed. I loved it. So I was like, I want to make that again. The costumes you buy are so expensive, but I was like, let's see how cheap I can make this kind of thing. So I went to the Dollarama and picked out some stuff and let's see if we can make it. So let's get into it. Okay, so I have to admit, once I started making it, I realized it wasn't the right color. It's supposed to be like a navy, but when I was in the store, this was the only blue they had, and I thought it looked right, but then I was like, this isn't right. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to spend more money to buy more fabric. And I was like, I could just like dye it or like paint it to look darker, but I was like, you know what? It's good enough. We'll put a filter on at the end, make it look darker. You get the gist. But if you're doing it, try to get like a navy color. Mine is a little bit too light blue. It kind of but yeah, we'll make it work. Okay, so I'm using old elastic from old like pants, but you can use a belt or whatever you have, or even like your leggings and just cut them. But it's great if you have old pants, just cut the little elastic out. So then you're gonna take your fabric and glue it onto the elastic straight down flat, and then you're gonna kind of scrunch a piece over to kind of make a pleat, and then glue that onto the fabric. And then you're just gonna keep doing that. Glue a piece onto the fabric, and then glue a piece onto your little elastic piece. Sorry, I was saying electric, but you just keep doing that piece on the elastic, and then you fold a piece and glue it onto your fabric, so it'll look like this. And I probably should have cut it first, but I wasn't thinking. So now I was like, okay, gotta make it shorter. So I'm not recommending this, but this is what I did, and I cut this, but then it ended up looking really cool, so I took that piece and layered it on top of the other piece and just glued it down to make it even look more floofy or puffy, or well, you get it, more volume. So I just did that. I glued it on and it seemed to work. It turned out okay, I think. So that's not what I'm recommending. Definitely cut it first and go from there. All right, and so then with our white felt, we're gonna make her a little belt area thing. It's like part of the skirt. So you're just gonna take your white piece. I didn't cut it yet. I kind of folded it to the shape. So you want it a little bit thinner at the little base there, like right in the middle of the skirt, and then it widens out. So I just rolled it a few times to give it some like thickness, and then glued it down, and then started wrapping it around the skirt. And then once I got it around, then I cut it, and then I did the same thing on the other side. But you can cut it first if that's easier. I just thought this is easier for me, but you just do that to both sides. And this is what I ended up with, and it's all the way around the back, so I glued it to the back. So it worked pretty good. All right, and now onto the shirt. I took a white tank top. You can use a t-shirt. A t-shirt probably might actually be better. And then I took strips of the white fabric again, the white felt, and I cut into strips. So there's going to be 3 strips, and the first one closest inward is going to be the thinnest strip, but I'm still going to take it and I'm going to kind of roll it onto itself and glue it so it's thicker. And then you're going to and then each piece you cut is going to be a little thicker. So the second one's going to be a bit thicker, and your final one's going to be a lot thicker. So cut it bigger, and you're still once again going to fold it a couple times and glue it to itself to make it have a little bit more volume to it. And then you're going to take all those and glue them on top of each other, just slightly on the edge. Just glue that, and then it will make your little arm piece. And then for the little collar part of the top, I used the blue felt. And I think there's so many better ways to do this. Probably you could just cut it to the right shape. But I just took a piece and cut it straight down the middle, but not all the way through. So it'll be a little flap on the back. And then I just kind of started folding it into like a point at the end. There's probably better ways. I ended up liking this because it gave it some volume and shape to it. So I kind of like that. But you can just cut out the pure shape of it with the fabric and just do that. And you can even tie it onto you, but I just kind of started like gluing everything together into a point, and I kind of like how it ended up looking afterwards, but not perfect. You get the idea though. So then I took little strips of white and I just layered that down on to our little like neck piece that goes onto our top. So you just do that, and then after we do that, we're going to make our bows. So you're going to need 2 bows. You're going to need one for the back and one for the front, and you're just going to fan fold these. So you're just going to fold the fabric onto itself and then back onto it, over itself, and then back onto itself to get a little fan, and then you just glue those little sections together. And then you're going to make the little bottom part, like you're going to take some fabric that's a little longer, and you're just going to make sure the bottom flares out a bit, and then you're going to glue that to your bow. So this big one here is going to be your back bow, and then you're going to make a smaller bow that's going to go on your shirt. But then you can glue your bow to your skirt, and then to make the bow for the top, I just used a smaller piece of fabric, cut it out, and then I did kind of glue the edges down a little bit to give it a different kind of texture. But then same thing, you're gonna like after you do this part there where you glue it down, just on the edges, you're gonna fan fold it again. So like I said, you just fold the material back and forth on itself, and then you just glue in the center to keep all those different little pleats intact. So you're gonna have that, and then after you do that part, you're gonna make the bottom like you did for the other bow. So you just cut little strips of red fabric. So you're gonna cut it, but you're gonna flare it at the bottom, and then you just glue it onto your bow there. And then you take your bow, and then you're gonna glue it onto the blue part of the top, and then we'll just put it together, and you'll be able to slide it over your head. So just glue that down, and after we glue that down, we need to make the little golden piece that goes in the center of the bow, and I'm just going to use cardboard. So I'm just going to cut a piece of circular cardboard out, and then you're going to cut a little half moon and then another little circle, and you're going to glue those on, and then you'll paint them. You paint it yellow, and then you paint a little pink and then a little green on, and then you're just going to glue that onto the bow. And then next for your gloves, you're going to use the same method you did with the top. So take strips of red and glue them on, and each layer gets a little bit thicker. And if you have the cardboard, leave the cardboard on the gloves because it'll make it easier to actually put onto the glove. Okay, and the next little hair thingy. So I'm going to take cardboard and make a circle, and I'm going to cut almost all the way through and then kind of bend it onto itself and glue that down. And then take a piece of red fabric and glue that on top. And then I'm going to take a hair elastic and glue that onto the back of it. And then I'm going to paint it up a little bit because there's a couple dots. And then for the necklace, I'm taking a strip of red felt, and then I'm going to make a little moon and attach the moon onto that fabric, and then there's your necklace, and you can tie the necklace. And then for the headpiece, I had these little sticky little rope things, so I made it into a V, glued it together, and then I painted it, and then I found a gem off another mask because I didn't have gems. I realize how unprepared I actually am to make this costume, but I used that gem on to the headpiece, and then I added string just to tie it, and you can also stick it to your head with eyelash glue. I forgot about the boots, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna make them or try to make them, but you can go online and buy boots, or you just buy like red socks, or if you have white long socks, you can dye them red and like add the little details to them. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that because I'm getting tired and lazy. I don't want to spend more money. So, well, so you can go buy your own if you need to, or make your own. You get it. All right, and also too, you can buy a wig. I should have bought a wig, but I also didn't want to spend that much money. And once again, I'm so ill prepared. I apologize, guys. You can get a wig, or you can get extensions to do the hair. I'm just gonna leave mine as is. It's kind of long. It's blonde-ish, so we'll go with that. Okay, let's go try the finished thing on and hope it looks somewhat decent. Okay, let's go. Did it turn out perfect? No. Did it turn out okay? I think so. There's definitely things I need to fix. Like obviously you can get a wig, duh, and fix things up a bit better. I need to fix this up more, but like it turned out okay. I'm okay with it. All right, thanks so much for joining. Bye-bye.